The millionaire mocked the homeless boy until I saw him dancing with his disabled daughter. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sun beat down hard on the cracked pavement. I was watching, heart racing, as the millionaire strutted by with his shiny shoes and tailored suit. He looked like he owned the world. He spotted a boy crouched by the corner, his clothes tattered and dirty, the smell of sweat and despair surrounding him. The boy was just trying to stay warm. It was a chilly afternoon. I held my breath, my insides tightening as the rich man burst into laughter. "You really think you can ask me for change? Look at you," he sneered, eyes glinting with mockery. The boy's head dropped, shoulders sagging. My own heart felt heavy like a rock lodged in my throat. I wanted to scream at the millionaire. I wanted to tell him he was a monster. That's when I noticed something unusual. In the middle of that chaos, something bright emerged. A young girl appeared, her smile wider than the sun, her laughter bubbling up like a refreshing spring. She was in a wheelchair, her legs limp but spirit unyielding. The boy's eyes lit up as she wheeled over, hair bouncing, and he reached for her hands, the weight of their world momentarily lifted. In that raw moment, time stopped. The millionaire froze too. I felt tears welling up, my breath hitching. What was happening? It wasn't supposed to be like this. The boy and the girl began to sway, slowly motioning together as if caught in a magical rhythm. The air filled with an electric energy. Their dance spoke volumes that words could never convey. Pure, unabashed joy tearing through the suffocating sorrow surrounding them. The crowd began to murmur. I could hear their whispers fluttering, confused and awestruck. A woman close to me gasped, clutching her friend's arm. "Look at them," she whispered. The millionaire's expression transformed, from disdain to disbelief. I couldn't take my eyes off of the child in the chair, her laughter ringing like silver bells in the cacophony of disbelief. Then, in a shocking twist, I saw the tiniest flicker of recognition in the millionaire's eyes. What did it mean? Did he somehow know them? Questions raced through my mind. My heart pounded hard against my chest. There was power in their connection, something deeper than any kind of wealth could buy. But as the music of their laughter enveloped me, I couldn't shake the chilling sensation of impending danger. And just as quickly as it began, the moment vanished. The millionaire scowled, turning away as if he was erasing the whole scene from memory. The girl in the wheelchair fell silent, her sparkle dimming. What had I just witnessed? What was the story behind that boy and the girl? My heart sank as uncertainty wrapped around me like a vice. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the crowd around me began to disperse, the weight of what I had witnessed lodged itself deep within my chest. The joy that had flared between the boy and the girl felt like a flickering candle in a storm, and I found myself desperate to uncover their story, to connect those delicate threads of magic amidst the harsh reality of the world. That I hesitated, torn between leaving and approaching the pair, whose laughter still echoed faintly in the air. Courage propelled me forward, my heart pounding like a drum as I made my way to them. The boy was kneeling by the wheelchair, now quiet, his gaze lost in thoughts that seemed far beyond his years. The girl sat motionless, her once radiant expression dulled into something fragile yet serene. "Hey," I said softly, crouching down next to them. "That was beautiful." The boy glanced up at me, his eyes shimmering with a mix of hope and weariness. "Thank you," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "Her name is Mia." "Mia?" I repeated, letting the name roll off my tongue like a secret meant just for us. I turned to the girl. She smiled dimly, her gaze lingering on the ground. "Why were you dancing?" "It's easier to forget when we dance," Mia exclaimed, her voice suddenly vibrant. "It makes everything else go away." An ache sliced through me, hearing the innocence of her words. I could only nod, a bittersweet understanding washing over me. Before I could respond, the boy interjected, his demeanor turning somber. "We don't have much else," he admitted, looking away. "Sometimes I worry it won't always be this way." What do you mean? I whispered, not wanting to disrupt the tenderness of the moment. He shifted, the weight of unspoken thoughts pressing against his young shoulders. People look through us. They see dirty clothes and a wheelchair and forget we have hearts too. They don't see that we feel happy or sad. They only see this. My heart twisted. His poignant expression forced my thoughts back to that cruel millionaire. Yet I longed to help the boy and Mia understand how remarkable they truly were. Just as I searched for the right words, a sudden shout pierced the air. Oi, you lot! What do you think you're doing? A burly man stomped toward us, his face twisted in anger. A sense of dread settled in. Was he somehow affiliated with the millionaire? The boy hurriedly pushed Mia back, shielding her as if she were made of glass. Leave us alone, he cried defiantly. We were just talking. Talking? The man scoffed. You're in my way. Move before I decide to have some fun. My pulse quickened. I couldn't let anything happen to them. Please sir, I said, stepping forward, trying to wield empathy like a shield. They're harmless. Can't you see they were just sharing something special? Special? He echoed, smirking. Yeah, right. You think they matter? This is a waste of time. He stepped closer, a heavy shadow looming over us, threatening to extinguish our moment of light. But then, as if answering a silent prayer, a woman appeared out of nowhere, striding toward us with authority. What's going on here? She demanded, her voice commanding but gentle. Just some street rats, the man grunted, waving a dismissive hand towards the boy and Mia. No. You're wrong, she replied fiercely, her eyes narrowing. This street rat is a person just as valuable as you or I. Leave them alone. The tension simmered, and for a moment, it felt like all hope hinged on this encounter. The man hesitated, studying the woman with a mixture of confusion and frustration. And as he turned to walk away, it seemed that perhaps kindness had prevailed, if only for a moment. Thank you, I breathed out, the relief washing over me like a warm blanket. The woman turned to us, her expression softening. Are you two all right? Yes, Mia replied, her voice trembling yet earnest. What's your name? I asked the woman, craving the connection that was blossoming in the tepid air. Lila, she said, kneeling down to meet Mia's gaze. What you two shared earlier, it was beautiful. Never let anyone make you believe otherwise. Just as I allowed myself to hope, my phone buzzed. I glanced down and my heart stopped. The caller ID read A wave of fear crashed through me. I backed away, urgency swirling my thoughts. What if she needed me? What if the news was bad? I have to take this, I murmured to Mia and the boy, feeling the weight of my own dilemma as I stood, desperate for answers, and tearing away from a moment I didn't want to leave. But as I stepped into the distance, my heart felt heavy with a lingering question. Would I find hope in the chaos surrounding me or witness everything unravel in the time it took to answer? In the distance, my mom's voice crackled on the other end, an eerie tremor threading through each syllable. Where have you been? You need to come home. Her urgency was palpable, wrapping around me like a chokehold. I forced my breaths to steady, but every second away from Mia and the boy gnawed at me. Is everything okay? I asked, heart racing. There was silence, a beat too long. We need to talk, she finally replied, her words hanging heavy with unspoken truths. I could picture her on the other side of the line, her brow furrowed and eyes searching, as if she were reading emotions rather than words. Is it Dad? I pressed, dread pooling in my stomach. No, it's not him. Just, please hurry. With the pulse of anxiety threading through my veins, I stole one last glance at the pair before I took off. Their laughter still echoed in my ears, but the sweetness of the moment twisted into a painful reminder of what I could lose as I hurried home. The weight of uncertainty bore down on me. My mind raced with worry. What could possibly warrant such a tone? What had changed? Reaching my house, I opened the door cautiously, the familiar creak sending prickles down my spine. My eyes landed on her, standing in the dim light of the kitchen. I hardly recognized the woman before me. Her shoulders were hunched, as though the world had strained her spirit beyond breaking. Mom, I whispered, dread mingling with concern. She turned to face me, her expression hardened yet cracked with fear. I got a call from the hospital, she began, her voice shaking slightly. Your aunt, she's not doing well. The air thickened, pressing in all around me. The words slid over my skin like ice, my heart plummeting. What? How bad is it? She swallowed hard, a painful knot in her throat. They think it might be serious. They suggested you should come see her. I felt as though a chasm had opened up between us. The sensation of helplessness loomed large. Is there anything they can do? I don't know. They were vague, she replied, biting her lip. But I thought you should know. You deserve to say goodbye if it comes to that. The room spun, the implications weighing heavily in the silence that followed. I tried to process what she was saying, desperately trying to latch on to some thread of hope amidst the chaos. But all I could picture was Mia, still there on the street, dancing away their troubles, and the sharp contrast of my own reality suddenly felt unbearable. My eyes stung as I took a deep breath. I'm going to need some time, I whispered, moving toward my room. With each step, I felt the walls entrap me more, suffocating beneath the grief and uncertainty that had crashed down, unanticipated and relentless. Once inside my room, I shut the door, leaning against it as the world fell in around me. My phone buzzed again, someone from the hospital, perhaps? But each buzz felt like a cruel reminder of my reality. I sunk to the floor, hugging my knees to my chest, trying to fill the void left by the looming absence of my aunt and, by extension, the very fabric of my family. A sudden fluttering sound broke the tension. I reached for my phone, the dark screen illuminating my fingertips as I trespassed into what I feared might be a darkened space filled only with unsteadiness. Instead, it was a message from someone I didn't expect. A video link sent by Mia's boy, the very boy who had danced with her amidst the shadows of their existence. Cautiously, I pressed play, my heart racing with both trepidation and curiosity. The screen flickered to life, revealing the boy spinning joyfully, his laughter mixed with Mia's soft giggles, their spirits flourishing against the oppressive weight of the world. And there, amidst the swirling colors of their improvised dance, flickered something more than just joy. Hints of resilience, creativity, and pure love shone through, dazzling under the gray blanket of life's hardships. As the video played on, I felt a rising warmth inside me, an emotion that transcended my current grief. And yet I was reminded of the fragile line between joy and sorrow, the impending storm of reality waiting just outside my door. Just as I was about to message back, I needed them to know how their dance had impacted me. My phone buzzed again with another call. The name flashing on the screen sent my pulse into overdrive. It was a local number, the very hospital where my aunt was. I froze, paralyzed by the knowledge that whatever was about to unfold could change everything. The dance, the laughter, the newfound hope I had found in Mia and the boy, would they be threads I could hold on to when faced with loss? As I stared at my phone, breath hitching in my throat, I felt unmoored, caught in the fierce tug-of-war between hope and despair, hovering precariously as I braced for the unknown that lay ahead. The call lingered in the air like smoke, inviting dread and curiosity in equal measure. My heart thudded at the uncertainty, each beat a countdown to something inevitable. I pressed the answer button, bracing myself for an answer I wasn't sure I was ready to receive. Hello? My voice trembled slightly, betraying the composure I was desperately trying to hold on to. Is this your name? The nurse's voice was steady, friendly but tinged with formality. I clenched my fists, anticipating the worst. I'm calling from hospital name. We need to discuss your aunt's condition. The silence felt heavy, wrapping around me as tightly as regret. What's wrong? She's stable for now, but her situation is very serious. The doctors recommend visiting as soon as possible. We can't predict what may happen in the next few days. Each word felt like a nail being driven into my chest, sharp and unyielding. Okay, I understand, I murmured, trying to maintain clarity amidst the chaos swirling around me. I noted the room around me. The crumpled pile of clothes, the unopened books on my desk, the remnants of my childhood that now seemed so far removed from the person I had become. Is she conscious? I asked, a flicker of hope igniting within me. For now, yes, but she is not responsive. I advise you to come immediately. Every second felt like an eternity as I hung up, my mind replaying fragments of laughter and love I had shared with her, moments that now felt alarmingly fragile and distant. I could hear the muffled sounds of life outside my window, cars passing, children playing in the distant scenes of normalcy I was painfully aware I would soon be disconnected from. In an attempt to gather myself, I leaned against the edge of my bed, taking deep breaths to steady the tremor in my hands. As I did, my phone buzzed again, my heart leaping at the hope that it could be Mia, her laughter spilling like sunlight into my dark thoughts. But it wasn't he. It was a message from an unknown number, and my fingers hesitated before I opened it. The text read, "I heard about your aunt. I'm so sorry. If you need anything, I'm here for you." Tears burned in my eyes at the unexpected gesture, recognizing the kindness that snuck in during a storm of turmoil. Somehow amid my current sorrow, a stranger's compassion wrapped around me, filling the emptiness with warmth. I stepped outside my own turmoil, typing back a simple thank you. But there was a flicker behind my sorrow. This outpouring of support reminded me that I wasn't entirely alone in this unbearable moment. Not if there were hearts willing to share my burden, even if they were strangers. In a daze, I wandered back into the living room. My mother was still there, sitting at the kitchen table, an untouched cup of tea cooling in front of her, the steam dissipating like the hope I felt slipping away. Her gaze caught mine, and we shared a moment of understanding that needed no words. We were both scared, each of us holding on to the other while wrestling with the specter of our own fear. "I need to go," I finally said, my body moving toward the door almost instinctively. My voice trembled as I added, "I need to see her." What if? Her expression, a blend of anxiety and resignation, cut through me. "I understand. Let me drive you." As we stepped outside, the air chilled against my skin, sharp and biting, a stark contrast to the warmth I had felt earlier. The journey to the hospital felt like it stretched into eternity, every traffic light a reminder of the ticking clock pushing my aunt's fate toward something unforeseen. And yet, even in the car, as we fought against the silence that threatened to engulf us, moments of unexpected kindness flickered in and out. The barista at the coffee shop offered us a free drink as no one seemed to notice the heavy shadows cast over us. An elderly couple smiled at us while crossing the street, their hands intertwined as if to remind us that love endures even in the light of despair. When we finally arrived at the hospital, every step toward the entrance seemed to draw me further into an abyss of uncertainty. Lurched by fear yet buoyed by the fleeting kindness still echoing in my mind, I reached for the main door, only for my mother's hand to grasp my arm. "Wait," she said, her eyes wide as she scanned the lobby. And then I saw it, we weren't alone. Mia stood in the hospital's waiting area, her expression a whirlwind of concern and surprise. But behind her, leaning against the wall with an anxious expression, was that boy again, the one who had danced with her, their laughter still echoing in my thoughts. What were they doing here? My heart fluttered, a bewildering mixture of discomfort and a strange sense of hope clustering in my chest. As their eyes fell upon me, I realized something profound. I was at the intersection of two worlds, the weight of family sorrow and a bond that seemed to break through the barren landscape of my spirit. My mother's grip loosened, unraveling the strands of the moment. "This is unexpected," she murmured, uncertainty creeping into her voice. Mia approached, her face painted with a complicated blend of worry and empathy. "I heard about your aunt. I wanted to be here for you. We all did." I couldn't find words, caught between the chaos in my heart and the sincere warmth radiating from Mia and the boy. Before I could comprehend, I was enveloped in her embrace, and in that moment, I felt the fragile bridges between sorrow, hope, and love blend together. But just as quickly as that comfort swept over me, the stark reality reappeared, looming larger than life. I glanced toward the hospital entrance, anxiety clawing at me. What awaited us inside would test the threads binding us all, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the moment was just a prelude to something far more profound. As I turned, the boy caught my gaze, his eyes alight with unyielding spirit. He nodded slightly, a gesture of understanding that transcended unspoken words. In that fleeting moment, a bond ignited between us, a flicker of something larger than ourselves binding us together in the face of sudden, profound loss. We shared a silent acknowledgement that gave way to hope, but just as I felt the edges of my grief dull, an unfamiliar weight descended within. I scanned the room, the memories of the dance playing against my mind, awash in a stark realization that something had shifted. It was as if I was on the precipice of a deeper truth waiting to be unveiled. Just as the doors to my aunt's room creaked open, ushering in the uncertain waves of what lay ahead, the fluorescent lights of the hospital hallway flickered, casting an eerie, sterile glow over everything. My heart raced with trepidation as I took the first tentative step forward, propelled more by the camaraderie of Mia and the boy than my own determination. The air was thick with the muffled sounds of medical equipment and distant voices, each echo a reminder of the gravity of the situation we were thrust into. As we approached the nurse's station, the boy fell in beside me, offering a reassuring smile that somehow softened the terror gnawing at my insides. "You've got this," he said quietly, as though he could see the storm raging within me. There was a disarming honesty in his eyes that made me feel less alone, as if he understood exactly how heavy the weight of uncertainty was. I nodded, though I felt anything but confident. More than ever, I was aware of how vulnerable I felt, like a tiny raft on a turbulent sea of emotions. Behind me, my mother's footsteps faltered slightly, her heaviness a palpable weight pressing down on us all. I glanced back at her, wishing I could absorb some of her fear and replace it with courage. As we reached the door, I hesitated, my hand moments away from the handle. There was a strange comfort in this moment of stillness, a final pause before entering the chaos of the unknown. Mia placed a hand on my shoulder, grounding me with her presence. "Whenever you're ready," she whispered, and it was enough to ignite a flicker of resolve within me. I opened the door, and the scene that lay before us was electrifyingly raw. There, surrounded by the cold sterility of the hospital, was my aunt, lying frail and fragile, her skin glowing pallidly against the white sheets. Tubes snaked their way into her body, each a reminder of the time rapidly slipping through our fingers. My breath caught in my throat as I stepped closer. I hadn't seen her in months, and the realization hit me like a tidal wave. Each missed moment loomed large, heavy with regret and loss. The sterile smell of antiseptic mixed with the phantom scent of her lilac perfume, triggering memories of summer afternoons spent in her garden, laughter dancing in the warm breeze. Tears brimmed in my eyes, and I turned slightly, trying to breathe through the constriction in my chest. Suddenly, a small voice broke through the fog of sorrow. "Hey there, loved one," a nurse said, her tone tender and warm, a small beacon in the overwhelming darkness. "I'm just checking on her vitals. We'll take good care of her. You just need to be here." Her words ignited a flicker of hope inside me. Maybe, just maybe, there was still a chance. I felt Mia step closer, her hand intertwining with mine, squeezing tightly as we both leaned in to take in my aunt's still form. "She's a warrior," Mia whispered, and I could hear the certainty in her voice. But then, just as quickly as the hope surfaced, it was shattered by an unsettling noise. My mother's sobs, raw and anguished, reverberated through the room. I turned to her, pain etched across her face, a reflection of my own turmoil. "I wish we had done more for her," she choked out, swimming in her regret, and I felt myself being pulled under by the weight of her anguish. The boy stepped forward, a calm presence amidst the storm of emotion. "She knows you love her. That's what matters," he said, voice steady as a rock, reminding me that our feelings for her hadn't diminished, despite the time lost. He looked to me, his gaze urging me to hold on to the thread of hope that seemed so fragile yet so essential. As the moments passed, we shared stories, memories spilling out like a river over rocks, trying to breathe life into her stillness. I talked softly, recounting the last birthday party we had celebrated together. The way she always had a knack for making every moment feel magical. It was instinctive, as if by sheer force of will we could coax her back from that precipice. Mia joined in, her voice a soothing balm, weaving in the stories of their visits, her laughter lightening the air, encouraging me to remember the vivacious woman my aunt had been. The boy stayed close, supportive yet silent, as if he could sense the sacredness of the moment. Then, just as the shared buoyancy lifted our spirits, there was a sudden commotion outside the room, the unmistakable sound of raised voices, harsh and discordant, echoing off the sterile walls. My heart pounded painfully against my rib cage, dread surging within me. And then a figure burst through the door, a woman with wild eyes and a frantic expression, her hair a tangle around her face. "Where is she? Where's my mother?" The chaos resonated, instantly breaking the delicate atmosphere we had tried to build. It was a shocking revelation, each word heavy with implications. My eyes darted between my frail aunt and the newcomer, caught in a web of confusion and intrigue. Who was this woman? My mother's gaze swung from the woman to me and then back, panic etched across her features as if she, too, were struggling to parse the familial connections unraveling before her. The air thickened, uncertainty enveloping us all in its suffocating embrace, and I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. This was a new conflict growing in the shadows. Secrets that appeared to be intertwining with our grief, weaving a tapestry of hidden connections that would soon demand to be confronted. All I could think as the room filled with anxious questions was that this was just the beginning. Unraveling the truths behind the storm we were witnessing could change everything. The weight of that realization settled heavily in my chest, replacing hope with apprehension as I braced myself for the revelation of yet another layer in this emotional odyssey. The room seemed to shrink around us, the air pulsing with tension as the woman's presence felt both like an invasion and an echo from a past I couldn't place. Her chest heaved, the frantic energy radiating from her almost tangible, drowning out the fading whispers of my aunt, the memories we had shared, and the laughter that still lingered like a ghost in the air. My heart raced, keeping pace with the chaotic rhythm of uncertainty thrumming through me. "Mom, I thought we had lost contact with her," my mother whispered, her voice trembling, tearing at the edges of my fragile composure. I cast a glance at the boy, wondering if he would rally us once more, his steady demeanor becoming the anchor I desperately needed. Yet this time he merely stood back, a mixture of confusion and sympathy painting his features. The woman's words, sharp and jagged, echoed in my ears. "I won't let you take her from me. I deserve to see her. She's my mother too." The declaration hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode, sowing seeds of tension among us, rippling outward in waves of shock and disbelief. "Who are you?" I finally managed to ask, my voice a breathy whisper, torn between intrigue and a protective instinct to shield my family from the onslaught of this stranger. As I spoke, I noticed the nurse had stepped back, allowing us to confront this truth without interference, her practiced calm morphing into something resembling sympathy if only she could ease this revelation. "My name is Clara," she said, breathing heavily, as if she had run a marathon to reach us. "Clara Gardiner, your aunt's daughter. I'm her only child." In that instant it was as if reality had stretched and contorted, distorting the life I thought I knew. It took a deliberate moment for her words to sink in, each syllable digging into me like a foreign object that wouldn't budge. I watched as my mother's face fell, the very foundation upon which she built our realities shattering into countless fragments. This new piece of information was a jigsaw puzzle I didn't know how to fit into the picture of my life. "No, that can't be possible," she gasped, shaking her head in denial, and I felt a pang of empathy tight in my chest. As confusion reigned, I turned to Mia, hoping my gaze would convey the questions swirling in my mind. "What do you mean your only child?" Mia finally managed to say, her voice offering a bravado I didn't possess. It ignited the spark of conflict in the air, cracking the still pond of our sorrow wide open. "We didn't know anything about you. Why didn't anyone tell us?" Clara stepped forward, a burst of emotion illuminating her eyes. "Because I was taken away when I was young, adopted. The family I grew up with didn't allow me any contact with my real mother. When I found her again, I thought it was too late. I came here as soon as I could." I stood oscillating between layers of grief, trying to navigate the treacherous landscape of shattered expectations. I had lost precious time with my aunt, while this stranger had fought through the tides of circumstance to regain her place in a life she had been denied. Was that the opportunity we had failed to embrace in our own ways? My aunt stirred on the bed, causing a ripple of concerned silence to wash over us, and I caught the nurse moving stealthily to her side, her careful movements grounding the chaos in the room. "Let us keep the noise down." The nurse's gentle voice cut through the tension, offering her quiet reassurance. "We need to focus on her right now." But the quiet didn't last. Clara's distress began to drain the energy from our small sanctuary, and soon her sadness throbbed in the very air we breathed. "I need to know she'll be okay. I deserve to be here for her," she pleaded, her desperation palpable. Caught in a whirlwind of emotions, I exchanged glances with the boy, hoping he would break the rising tide of anxiety. Instead, it was Mia who stepped forward, determination flickering in her eyes. "We all want that," she said, a strong, unyielding voice amidst the turmoil. "Let us not fight in front of her. She needs us. United in this moment, not torn apart." The reminder of our shared purpose began to gather support. Slowly, I saw Clara's fierce exterior soften, just enough to allow room for understanding. "I'm not trying to take her away from you," she said, her voice trembling with vulnerability. "I just want her to know I'm here, that I love her all the same." As the words struck a chord, something shifted within me, a small seed of compassion rooted deep in the soil of shared losses. The room had transformed into a fragile oasis of sorrow and hope, A tangled web that bound us together even in the darkness yet unfurling then. Without warning, my aunt's eyelids flickered open, her gaze drifting between the three of us and the flurry of emotions unfolding around her. What was happening? She murmured, her voice raspy and worn, as if awakening from the depths of a slumber that threatened to take her away again. I was suddenly paralyzed by the uncertainty of what to say, the chaos around me transforming into an anxious silence. I met my mother's eyes, and I could see the pain reflected there, the fear that this moment would threaten everything we thought we understood. Clara opened her mouth, words struggling to break free, but perhaps the gravity of the situation silenced her, swallowing the confession that could help define the contours of our newfound reality. And that was when it hit me, the last threads of our emotional tapestry were yet to be woven. Tension swelled, each heartbeat echoing in my ears, and I braced myself for the fragile truth that lay ahead, like an impending storm ready to unleash its fury. The air thickened again as I realized that unraveling this sudden reality could bring clarity or chaos. I held my breath, waiting for another revelation to unfurl, unsure of what lay beneath the surface. Everything we had fought for, everything we believed, was now caught in the crosshairs of a new beginning, one that could heal us or tear us apart completely. The sterile scent of antiseptic seemed to grow heavier, weaving through the shimmering blanket of uncertain hope that began enveloping us. My heart beat a frantic rhythm inside my chest, conscious of the whispers of anticipation mingling with dread that coursed through the room. It felt almost too perfect, too fragile, a candlelight flickering against the impending storm, with Clara poised at the edge of emotional upheaval. It was my aunt's hesitant murmur that broke the silence once more. What was happening? Every syllable was a delicate thread, weaving between realization and denial. "Mom," my mother finally croaked out, tears shimmering in her eyes. "There's someone here, someone who wants to see you." The tension in her voice hung heavy as she gestured toward Clara. It seemed as if time stood still. I could see my aunt struggling to grasp the concept of this unexpected reality surfacing from the depths of her past. Clara took a single trembling step forward, heartache and longing intermingling in her gaze as she studied the woman who had once been her lifeline, now lying fragile and frail like a withered flower. "Mom, it's me," she breathed. "I came back for you." The moment my aunt's eyes locked onto Clara, they widened, filled with recognition and confusion. I watched with bated breath, wondering if the spark of memory would ignite in my aunt's fading life, or if it would remain lost in the blurred expanse of her grasp on reality. "You? Clara?" Her voice was barely a whisper, laden with years of absence and the grief of forgotten affection. The nurse, standing valiantly at my aunt's bedside, quietly nodded, smiling softly at the reunion unfolding before us. It was a gesture of compassion, a balm for the tumult we all felt. Clara knelt by the bed, the coarse texture of her tear-streaked cheek pressed against the worn fabric of my aunt's hospital gown as she sobbed. It was a raw, primal sound that echoed the depths of a soul that had once been denied by fate. "I missed you so much," she cried, revealing the layers of hurt that had been patiently building over the years. Yet, as quick as the moment soared to heights of emotion, another wave of uncertainty crashed upon us. I glanced at my mother. She gripped the edge of the hospital bed, her knuckles paling. Was it anger? Fear? Or was she simply grappling with the disillusionment that came from secrets she had tried desperately to protect us from? "Mama," Clara continued, her voice trembling with both fear and hope, "I came to tell you I love you. I've thought about you every day. I want to be part of your life again." It was in that instant that my aunt's face flickered between joy and grief, a kaleidoscope of emotions that sent my heart spiraling. The nurse, inching closer to my aunt, whispered words of encouragement, but they were swallowed by the whirlwind consuming us. Clara's desperate desire to connect with her mother ignited a spark within me, and I wondered if perhaps, in this chaotic reunion, my aunt could rediscover the love that had long been buried. Then came a shattering sound, like glass breaking against the weight of a tragic story. "You abandoned me!" my mother suddenly exclaimed, her voice ringing sharp and clear, slicing through the fragile air. Her eyes, now shimmering with unshed tears, filled with unspeakable hurt, made raw. "How can you think it's okay to show up after all this time? To just claim her as if you have the right?" Clara recoiled, her expression clouded with pain from the accusation. "I didn't choose to be adopted, I was taken away. I've mourned my mother for half my life. I thought I'd lost her forever. I know what it's like to lose a mother too. My mother shouted, her brow furrowed in anguish. We fought for her, the whole family has struggled, and now here you are, claiming you want to be back in her life. What's next? Destroying our last shred of happiness? A cacophony of emotions flooded the room, leaving me rooted in silence, watching as an emotional battlefield stretched out before us. Clara's tears mirrored my mother's, both women, grappling with losses they had each endured, sadness, regret, anger, everything colliding in a grand crescendo that threatened to leave our battered hearts more fractured than before. And that moment, I felt a strange sense of connection to Clara, the woman whom I had yet to truly understand. She wasn't just a stranger. She was a vessel of loss and longing. And yet, my mother's protective ferocity resonated deep within me. Suddenly, I found myself torn between two women, each screaming their truth into the void, each fighting for love in their own way. As my heart raced, I could almost hear the ticking of an unseen clock, pushing this moment forward, a relentless reminder that each second carried weight, and time did not relent. Then the air shifted again as my aunt, grasping Clara's hand tightly, finally spoke again, a low voice rising from the wreckage of emotions. I remember you, Clara. Please don't fight. Her voice trembled with yearning and fear, and it suddenly felt as though we were all teetering on the edge of an avalanche. The weight of the coming moments loomed over us like a heavy storm cloud ready to rain down. Just as hope flickered within me, the door swung open abruptly. A newcomer entered, the doctor. His expression mirrored the burden of grim realities. We need to talk about your aunt's condition, he said, causing a chill to sweep through the room, and in that instant the atmosphere shifted once again. The confrontation halted, leaving the air thick with unspoken fears. In that moment, I realized this significant revelation could be overshadowed by something far more heartbreaking. My heart raced, not merely from the emotional confrontation, but with the gnawing terror of losing someone we had just begun to reclaim. What is it? I asked, unable to suppress the tremor in my voice. The doctor's gaze met mine, filled with the kind of responsibility that no one ever wishes to bear. It's time to address the reality of her condition, and we may need to prepare for what comes next. And that looming statement broke the fragile fabric of our moment, leaving each of us stranded on the precipice of grief, hope, and a devastating unknown. The sterile scent of antiseptic had now morphed into an almost palpable pressure, filling the air like a suffocating fog as whispers began to rise, echoing off the walls of our fragile sanctuary. My heart, still pounding with raw emotions, felt the weight of uncertainty creeping back into the room, overshadowing the flickers of hope that had ignited just moments before. I turned my gaze back to Clara, who remained on her knees, clenching my aunt's hand tightly as if it were a lifeline. Please, Mama, please stay with us, she murmured, her voice laced with desperation. The tears streaming down her cheeks glistened like tiny prisms, refracting the light into shards of color that momentarily illuminated the dark corners of our grief. But even as Clara pleaded, my mother's fierce demeanor had not softened. Her arms were crossed tightly over her chest, her face a storm of emotions that thrashed like thunderclouds above us, threatening to unleash a torrent of sorrow. As the doctor continued to stand at the threshold, his own anxiousness palpable, I realized this perfect moment of reckoning was teetering precariously. At any moment, it could tumble into chaos. Would you please just listen? The doctor urged, finally breaking through the tension. Your aunt is stable for now, but her condition is worsening. We've been trying to reach out to you both about her prognosis. His voice faltered, and the weight of those final words hung heavy, like smoke filling a once clear room. Clara's grip on my aunt's hand tightened and she squeezed her eyes shut, the sound of her anguish escaping in a broken whisper, "No, please." But my mother's fury twisted the atmosphere into something darker, cracking the fragile bonds that began to mend. You're saying there's something we didn't know? She snapped at the doctor, her voice sharpening a little more with each syllable. How could this possibly get worse? We've struggled through decades of pain. We deserve at least some peace. The fire in her eyes threatened to sweep everything in its path. As the tension spiraled, I caught sight of Clara's face as she flinched at our mother's words, pain coursing through her like wildfire. Before I could console her, she stood, her breath shaky but her resolve firm. Mom, I'm here now. We can fight this together. Let us focus on what we can do right now. Fight? My mother's disbelief echoed through the room. What can any of us do? You come here wanting to make amends, but have you even thought about the chaos you've created? This isn't just about you, Clara. I felt a deep fissure opening beneath us as Clara struggled under the weight of their exchanges. I thought I could help her, she cried, anguish spilling from her voice. I thought coming here might bring her some peace, but now it feels like I'm losing her all over again. At that moment I stepped forward to intervene, desperate to break the cascade of turmoil. Maybe we could just pause for a moment and breathe, I suggested, trying to keep my own voice steady. Let us not tear each other apart when we can seek to heal. But before I could even finish, the doctor cleared his throat, his face a mixture of compassion and professionalism. If you'd like to step outside for a moment, I think discussing your aunt's care would be best without emotions clouding the situation. A scream of frustration welled inside my mother as the door slowly swung closed, the tension crackling like static. Clara stood frozen, eyes glistening, torn between holding on to hope and the impending heartache looming just beyond those clinic walls. It was then that Clara shared softly, I wish she could love me again. I want her to see me. Her voice broke on the final words, and although her pain resonated deep within me, it also ignited something else, an insight that had been hiding beneath the surface. Clara, I whispered, stepping closer, what if she can't? What if we need to love her just as she is broken, afraid? You have to allow her to embrace you in her own time. It was a cautious thought, yet one I hoped could offer a glimpse of understanding. She looked at me, confusion swirling with despair. But all those memories, she doesn't even recognize me completely. How do I show her, when she can't see beyond what she has lost? I took a deep breath, my heart aching for her profound loss. Perhaps through small, beautiful moments. You found your way back, let love reconnect you both, piece by piece. The cacophony of our earlier confrontation was far from forgotten, yet I noticed something shift in Clara's expression. A tiny thread of resolve began to return, wrapping around her heart like a gentle embrace. Maybe you're right, she finally whispered, a glimmer of hope reframing the despair. But what if it's not enough? In that uncertainty we lingered together, lost in the possibilities of healing, while also drowning in the tumult of our emotions. As the weight of the moment hung heavily in the air, the door swung open once more. The doctor returned, his expression grave enough to extinguish the dwindling flame of hope. Your aunt, she's asking for you both. There's a new development, and it may change your understanding of her care, he said, his voice low, threaded with an urgency that sent shockwaves through me. Clara exchanged a fearful glance with me, her breath catching as our resolve was once again put to the test. The horizon of our battle flickered to life, the stakes sky high. As we stepped back into the room, I couldn't shake the feeling that something pivotal loomed just beyond the reach of our grasp, threatening to shift our already fragile world upside down once again. I knew whatever awaited us would alter every decision, every feeling, leaving us standing at the precipice of an unfathomable abyss. The sterile room felt narrower now, each heartbeat echoing painfully against the stark walls. The air was thick with unvoiced fears as we approached my aunt's bed, her once vibrant face now dulled by the veil of conditioning that enveloped her. Clara's hand trembled in mine, uncertainty and hope woven together into an intricate tapestry of emotion. As we stepped closer, my heart pounded, mismatched beats that echoed Clara's anxious breaths. Aunt Gina? I called gently, but the frail woman's eyes remained shut, her breath shallow, almost reminiscent of a fragile bird trapped in a maelstrom. There was something unnervingly intimate about our presence here. Yet I could feel the distance growing with every tick of the clock, time slipping through our fingers like sand. Please open your eyes, Clara murmured, her voice tethered with emotion. It was a plea laced with desperation, the kind that encases a heart too familiar with grief. I wanted to reach out, to soothe the pain that etched her features, but a churning uncertainty twisted my gut. What if this moment opened the floodgates of despair rather than the channels of healing? And then, like a distant drop of warmth piercing through a frigid storm, my aunt's eyelids fluttered. They parted slowly, revealing the remnants of recognition mingled with confusion. Clara, she whispered, her voice a mere shadow of the strength it once embodied. The words seemed to linger in the air, charged with the weight of what was lost and what might still remain. Yes, it's me. I'm here, Clara whispered, kneeling closer, her emotions barreling towards the surface like waves crashing upon the shore, relentless and unyielding. A fragment of hope shimmered there, reflecting the love she had so desperately yearned for. But then the doctor's voice emerged from the shadows, grave and unsettling. "We've discovered something concerning about her condition," he said, drawing a murmured collective intake of breath from us. "Your aunt has been suffering from additional complications. I understand how this may increase your anxiousness, but it's vital you stay calm as we navigate this situation." A heavy silence enveloped us as Clara's expression twisted from longing to fear, her eyes wide as if seeking a response, an answer that might pull her back from the precipice of despair. My throat tightened as the realization clawed at me. What kind of revelation could be lurking in the doctor's sterile tone? Complications? What does that mean for her? Clara's voice cracked, the unresolved anguish threatening to spill over at any moment. I could see her fingers clench and unclench around the edge of the bed, desperate for stability in this shifting landscape of suffering. The doctor hesitated, the weight of unsaid words heavy on his lips. "There are options, but some will require you to consider your own boundaries of love and sacrifice." He paused, searching our faces with a tenderness that felt out of place in such a clinical environment. "She may need intense treatment, and it will demand significant time and resources." As the words sank in, the room felt colder. I looked at Clara, who appeared both resolute and disheartened in that fleeting moment. Could she endure the rigorous path that loomed ahead? The sacrifices it would entail, emotionally and financially? Forcing myself to remain present in the moment, I remembered the warmth of Clara's smile, her laughter echoing through my childhood memories, a fondness that eased burdens but couldn't erase the weight of the present. "We can figure this out, Clara," I murmured, although doubt tainted my resolve. "Together we can navigate through this." But her gaze drifted towards my aunt, navigating through the tumult of past connections and future uncertainties. What if she needs something beyond what I am capable of offering? Clara's voice trembled, and I could sense the fear threatening to encapsulate her with every syllable. As if sensing our turmoil, my aunt's gaze sharpened. "You've always been enough, my dear," she croaked, the sound barely escaping her lips, yet it struck like lightning. "Even when I lost my way, don't let my darkness bind you to it." Clara's expression momentarily brightened, yet the shadows of doubt remained. "What if it's not enough this time, Aunt Gina?" she whispered, and in that moment, I could tell that hope was waging war against despair within her heart. Just when clarity began to pierce through the veil, the doctor's phone buzzed relentlessly in his pocket. He glanced at it with a mix of apprehension and urgency before managing a breathless, "I've got to take this call." "You two need a moment," he said, backing out of the room. The silence enveloped us like an echo of unsaid words, the weight of love and fear grasping our hearts in a bittersweet embrace. "You know I'd promise you anything," Clara murmured, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "But I can't do this alone. I fear what it means if." "Stop," I interjected softly. "You're not alone. Not now, not ever." I could feel the tremor of her fear threatening to swallow her whole, and I fought against the tide of doubt, the urge to shield my heart from the potential heartbreak we faced, even as my own fears threatened to rise to the surface. And just as I was about to offer reassurance in the form of promises, we heard a bustling commotion erupt from the waiting area. The door flung open, slamming into the wall, as a figure came rushing in, a woman we both recognized, our estranged cousin, Maeve. I received a call that something was wrong. "What is happening? Where's Aunt Gina?" she gasped, her expression mixed with alarm and something I couldn't quite name. Empathy? Guilt? In that split second, I recognized the turmoil deep inside Clara's eyes. The path of healing was becoming complicated, filled with the ghosts of past grievances. As Maeve approached, tension pulsed through the room like an electric current, leaving us standing on the edge of unknown possibilities. The air felt heavier, electricity crackling between us, each heartbeat a countdown, each word a potential unraveling of the tenuous bonds we tried to hold. The future loomed uncertain and complicated, and just as the waves of hope surged, I sensed a shocking revelation settling into our space, hidden beneath the shadows of familial love and collective pain. Caught in the swirling storm of emotions, I braced myself for the fracture that might follow. Maeve's presence, unexpected yet familiar, opened a door to a past that none of us had quite learned to navigate. "Where's Aunt Gina?" she demanded again, fear punctuating her words as she scanned the room, desperate for answers. My voice trembled as I attempted to answer, the gravity of the situation weighing heavily on my heart. She's here in bad shape. There are complications, I managed to say, glancing at Clara, whose anguish mirrored my own uncertainty. Maeve's eyes widened in alarm. What do you mean? Complications? Why wasn't I told sooner? The intensity of her concern led to the thrum of tension between us, old wounds opening to the light like a jarring reminder of the fractures that had long ago formed in our family. I could see Clara's protective instincts ignite as she closely monitored Maeve's response. Please, Maeve, she said, stepping forward, voice steady yet soft. We're just starting to figure things out. We can't let anger tear us apart any further. This isn't about us anymore. But it is, Maeve protested, her voice rising, filled with frustration and longing for connection. I wasn't there when she lost you, Clara. I thought we were family. Family, Clara echoed, her voice crackling like a dry branch as she stood firm. And what does that even mean to you after everything? You left. You chose to walk away from our lives. In that sharp moment, the room pulsated with raw emotional energy. Each word was a dagger, each utterance peeling back the layers of grief and regret that had woven us together yet left us fragmented. I'm not here to fight, Maeve said quietly, stepping back, the spark of anger wavering. I came because I'm terrified of losing her too. The honesty in Maeve's voice tugged at something deep within me, an understanding that while wounds from the past were jagged and painful, they also carried the weight of love and longing. The unspoken desire for connection threaded through the air, and I caught a glimmer of hope amidst the sorrow. I stepped toward them, conscious of the burden we all carried. What if we're all here for the same reason? We love her, I declared, the words feeling both freeing and a touch naive. We each have a piece of her heart, and right now we need to unite to protect that. Together. All eyes turned toward me, vulnerable yet fierce. I could sense the flickering of emotions shifting around us, the once insurmountable walls beginning to fracture. Perhaps this was the moment we could weave our experiences into a shared tapestry of resilience and hope, where love reigned over loss. Maeve sighed, the tension in her body softening. I don't want to lose her. None of us do. Her voice cracked slightly, realizing the depth of fear that united us. In unison, Clara moved forward, wrapping her arms around Maeve, who hesitated before succumbing to the embrace. I've missed you, Maeve. We've both missed you, Clara whispered, and I felt the walls we had built around ourselves begin to crumble. Emotions surged between us like wildfire. I felt tears prickling my eyes, realizing we had been navigating a shared grief born from absence, distance, and pain. We had been brought together not by duty but by a common thread that connected us, our love for Aunt Gina, tied by echoes of fond memories, and the longing to reclaim what had been lost. As we began to navigate the fragile terrain of reconciliation, it finally occurred to me that hope wouldn't erase our history, rather, it could elevate our strength as a family. In strength, we found a buoy to bring us safely back to the surface. Let us focus on her, I suggested softly, gesturing toward the bed where my aunt lay, the quiet breaths a lingering call to action. As we turned back, a wave of uncertainty washed over me. I grasped Clara's hand and she squeezed mine, her resolve returning. Maeve stepped beside us, an unexpected alliance forming in the space we had created, and together we approached my aunt, each of us carrying the weight of shared love and tentative hope. Aunt Gina, Clara spoke gently, her voice breaking the silence. We're all here now just for you. Please know you're not alone. And in that instant, as my aunt's eyes slowly fluttered open again, the recognition that flickered through her gaze filled the room with renewed purpose. You're all here? She whispered, her voice fragile but present. Yes, Maeve said softly, stepping forward with raw emotion laid bare. We're here together. With each passing moment, it struck me that this was the essence of family, a collective bond forged through love and loss, and now also through our willingness to heal together. The air shimmered with unspoken connections, the way a storm recedes, leaving behind sunlight breaking through the clouds, because in that encompassing embrace of love and reconciliation, I understood we weren't just fighting for my aunt, we were rebuilding ourselves. And as our voices melded into a harmonious blend of affirmations, an unexpected yet familiar energy sparked between us, a bond reignited through shared understanding, armed with the hope that together, we could weather any storm lying ahead. As the door swung open once again, this time revealing the doctor with more serious news, The horizon of turmoil shifted beneath us, yet together we faced the unknown. She's stabilized for now, but we need to discuss a specialized treatment plan. He began, and in that moment, as dread threatened to ensnare us once more, I realized we had all the strength we needed. Because no challenge was insurmountable when love anchored us in ways that heartache never could. Together, I whispered to the trio, and their resolved expressions mirrored my own as we stood united. For every tear shed, every heart shattered, we were learning to dance a new rhythm, a dance filled with understanding and tenderness, imbued with a commitment to honoring our unique stories while woven into a collective tapestry of healing. As I drew a deep breath and squeezed Clara's hand tighter, it felt as though an invisible thread connected us all, an undeniable bond that had survived the storms of grief, loss, and uncertainty, leaving us ready to embrace the future together. And perhaps in that dance of life and love, we found the most powerful truth of all. That even amidst darkness, the light of connection could illuminate the path toward hope, guiding us home. And in that powerful moment, I vowed to keep the flame of our shared journey alive. For every lost heart could find its way back if we embraced the power of loving each other through the pain. Together we could create a beautiful resonance, one that transcended our individual stories and became something greater. As my thoughts settled, a smile broke upon my lips and I couldn't help but think. We had become a family once more, redefined and reborn through the journey of pain and reconciliation. And I felt, deep within me, that the love we discovered together would guide us through every storm yet to come, illuminating the depths of our hearts and leading us toward brighter days ahead.